Now let's talk a little bit how we set up the shading and rendering for the fiery height field. Same as before, I just created a grid same size as the height field. I set its center, as you can see here, to 34.642. If you remember from the previous, it's basically the low point from the height field visualization. So if you enter the height field graph and here on the height field visualize, there's the minimum elevation. After you compute range, you get the minimum and the maximum elevation. Minimum elevation is the bottom, lowest bottom point of the height field, and the maximum elevation is the highest point of the height field. And the actual displacement amount that we need in the shader is actually the subtraction of the maximum with minimum. So you subtract minimum elevation for the maximum elevation, you get the amount of displacement that you need to completely one-on-one match the look of the height field. Okay, so same as before, like I said, it's a simple grid, same size as the height field, which is offsetted vertically to the minimal elevated point. UV is created and projected, and then they just scaled 99% just to avoid some texture clipping and warping at the edges. Okay, moving to the back to the lab context. Again, we just use a SOMP import node to import that same SOP level. Again, I'm just importing the fiery render one, like that's by default. We create a material library node. We set to assign to geometry, and again, like all geometry primitives, just use an asterisk to assign every material. That's okay. So let's dive into the material itself. It's a principal shader, the one done for Karma. So on the shader itself, under surface, again, I disabled use point colors and shade both sides. We don't need that. In the texture tab, I just use the texture, the bake texture for the color, because that one I used as is. None of the other textures are plugged in because those were kind of handled through the nodes. So for the bump and normals, I enable that. I set the texture type to bump. I use the actual color texture as the bump to get some nice surface variation as well, and just set the effect scale at 10. For the displacement, I enabled it, and again, this is actually the result of those maximum minus minimum elevation for the height field visualization node. So let's dive into the actual textures. Again, like for the base color, we use the exported color from the height field cops as is. For the roughness, though, we kind of generated it from the color texture itself. Let me switch to Karma here so we can see actually what's going on. So this is the color, the raw color, which you're gonna see right now. Let me just enable that flag. Okay, just enable the material flag. Nice. So this is the raw color that we got from the disable the grid that we got from the cops. Okay, that is piped through a color correction node, where I basically just completely remove the saturation, increase the value, and a little bit of a gamma to get something that I can work with to create the roughness map. That is then plugged through a remap node, so I can like easily change the high and low values to get the roughness that I want. And then I use the vector float to isolate a single channel, because roughness affects a single float value, not the color vector. That's it. So moving on. For the emissive color, because this is like a fiery lava thing, I also wanted to create a emissive color texture so it can glow so we can get some glow from the lava. So I'm actually So this is the lava mask that we created in COPS. That is plugged again into a color correction node, where I just like increased the value, played with like bias and gain and gamma to get like a contrast and value range or something that I like. As you can see here, like bias 0.3, gain at 0.2, gamma at 0.7, and value at 4. Again, I'm just isolating a single channel that I can work with, and then I actually subtracted a noise texture from it. So let me show you how I created that noise. So we start with a general like unified static noise, which is of course using global position as a position sample. Noise itself, it's rather like simple. It's a 3D input, 3D noise with Warlis LRF2 minus F1 at the frequency at 0.1, and that's kind of increase the roughness and linearity a little bit. I also played with bias and gain as well to get something that I like, something which is more kind of cell looking. I pipe that through a ramp. This one is not a color ramp; it's just like a spline ramp to kind of clamp the values to get something way more contrasty, like you can see over here. So that texture is then subtracted from the original lava one, just because I wanted a little bit more details. Let's disable this flag. So this is my lava texture, and I wanted to kind of break up all these flows. So by subtracting the one, you can see now what we get is these kind of breakups in that original lava texture that we made in COPS. What happened then is that I then plugged that into a color ramp, so I can set what the colors I want for the emission. Let me show you that. Okay, sometimes Houdini doesn't preview the ramp nodes, so there's a bug. So workaround currently just to drop a null node in between and then set a flag on that null node, and then you should be able to see what the actual ramp does. As you can see, like these, we're remapping these float values into these color values and plugging that into emissive color. Okay. So that's for the emission. For the last thing is actual displacement map that we tweaked. So for that, I kind of utilized many things. Like there's imported original height texture that you can see here. This is the original height displacement texture, but I subtracted a mixture of a lava flow and the same noise as before. So I created a new map, which is this multiplied map from lava and the noise, and I also color corrected that a little bit just to get some more contrast that I can work with. I a little bit changed the values by multiplying it a little bit because I wanted to control how much I'm going to subtract, and then I subtracted that from the original height field. We probably cannot see that. You can actually see that kinda in the map itself, and then that is plugged into the displacement node to get the final displacement. And those are all the textures that we made for this material. And now if I switch back the actual material tag, let me show you how that looks. Okay, going back to the SOP level, I just created a switch node where I can switch between those three height fields. It's easier to control. Same dome light, same camera, same background plate. Moving to the karma render to kind of show you how it finally looks, and switching to the camera. Let me just set up the actual proper display flag here, which is, let's turn off that so we don't get any interruptions. Cool. And there you go. So now we actually get the full material with displacement, with color, with custom roughness created from the color. You even get, let me show you a little bit of details that you get in the lava over here. You see, you get all this breakup as you can see right there. And that is the final look and final rendering and shading for the fiery height field.